So let's talk about loops. We, we we've already completed our registration page. Now we want to do certain things in it. We want to check if the user already exists before we save into our database because we don't want to have duplicate users. We changed our file name to the email, so it's easy to check if the user already exists. So we are going to be checking with their email and using that to return the proper message to the page. To achieve that, we are going to be using a loop. A loop, you can see on our resource page, there are different types of loops in PHP. There is the while loop, there is do while loop, there is the for loop, and for each loop. In our case, we'll be using the for loop. To me, it's the easiest to work with and easiest to understand. So let's go to the for loop. For for loop, it's very easy to write. We just start by writing a keyword, which is for loop, which is for, F-O-R. Um, then we initialize a variable that we call the counter. We test that counter against another variable or another item, and then we increment the counter, then perform our operation here. The example we see here is what we're going to be using. I'll just copy this out, come to our page, and paste it right here. So what we want to do is to have a counter here. I'll call it counter, and it's going to be starting from 0, and then I'll call this counter 2. Now we want to check if counter is less than our count of all users instead of having that there. So we are checking if counter is less than the count of all users, and then we're going to be increasing counter. So what do we want to do here? We want to check the current user. We want to get the current user as we go through all the users we have in our database. We want to get the current user and save the user in here. The current user will be all users at position counter. So this is the current user we are testing. When counter was 0, we are testing the first user we get from our database. What do we want to test about this user? We want to check if that user that we have gotten, which actually returns the name of this file here. If that user is the same thing as the email, remember that we are saving with the email address now. And then we are now testing if this current user, which basically returns this name here, if it is equal to the email they're giving us with the extension .json. So what do we want to do if it's equal? That means this user or this email already exists in our database, and we want to just send them back to our login page. Let me copy this and put here. So what we want to do is to send them back to our registration page and tell them that the user already exists, registration field, user already exists. So let's delete this. Right, what are we doing here? We are going through, we are using a for loop to go through all the users, and we are getting the current user, and we are testing that current user against the email that we were given, and then we are sending a message back to the registration page. Actually, this should be an error, not a message, because on our registration page, we use error to display the message here. So we are sending them back to that page with this message that says registration failed because the user already exists. And then that's it. Let's try it out now. All right, then we also need to terminate this code so it doesn't continue running. I mean, that's just like a precaution because the redirect will take care of that. But let's still add this here. That means this code will definitely stop running here once we have sent this message out to the user. Let's try it out. Let's go back to this registration page. Let's try, my email here is still the same here. So I'm going to be using that. I'm changing all this and submit. And then it says registration field user already exists. And you will see that our user is still the same here. So if I change my email to, say I change it to Unifade and submit it, then the registration went through and I'm back to my login page and it says it was fine. And then I can see that this new user was saved. Uh, that works. So let's try another registration. It seems my ID is not working well. Let's see why. So let me try another user. New update. Let me change my email to new update and just try to submit this. Let's see our ID. Okay, fine. Our ID works. So this is how to do a basic check on the user and check if the user already exists and send them the correct message by adding this little bit of code right here. So let's do a little cleanup. We've already done all this. Clean it up. We're checking if user exists. If they don't exist, we save them to the database. And this basically concludes what we want to do with our registration. A recap, we are checking for error messages here. We are validating each of the inputs. If input does not exist, because all the fields are required, if it is not filled, then we increase our error message, our error, and if the error is greater than 0, then there is an error somewhere. We send them back to the registration page with the error message. Next up, we get all the users in our database. We count all the users in our database, and then we assign a new ID to our user. We are subtracting 1 from this because this all users comes with 2 extra items. So instead of increasing this by 1, we are subtracting 1 from it. Then we are preparing our user object to save into database. Remember, we need to assign the new ID to that user. And then we are checking if the user already exists. If not, we are printing the user into our database and sending them to the login page. So our next step is to work on our login and see how we can log the user in and send them to the dashboard.